You start to realize that men reward promiscuity, they reward toxicity, they reward non-traditional values, but then they claim they want a good woman. And then you're like, this is strange. What they're saying and what they're doing is different. Look at what they're saying. They want good traditional women, but look at what they're investing in. They're investing in the woman with her entire body out, and the other things men will say is, I want a natural woman, no makeup, but you see who they're following on Instagram.
I literally can't wait for this. I have so many notes.
Oh, amazing.
So, Sadia Khan, thank you for coming onto the podcast. You are the first female guest.
Super privileged about that, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how I cut the queue, but I'm very grateful. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. You actually reached out.
I did, and I thought you would never reply to me. I was like, there's no way he's going to see it. And you actually replied to me. I'm really grateful. So thank you for that.
Well, this is a much needed conversation, because for you guys who watched the previous episode, that was with Fresh and Fit. We were discussing his book, Why Women Deserve Less. Heard you're a big fan of that book?
I actually wanted to get a conversation with him, but I'm actually glad we did it this way, Bella. I actually think it's really good to speak to somebody who's just heard like two sides of the coin, and then we can have a more neutral discussion, which I'm really excited about. So thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it.
So could you give everybody a brief background of what it is that you do?
Yeah, I'm a psychologist. I'm based here in Dubai, but I go back and forth from London to Dubai all the time. I do one-to-one online coaching with clients that mainly to do with trauma, but online I do a lot of relationship coaching and a lot of relationship counseling. So I'm actually a psychologist, but I specialize in childhood traumas, but it translates better online when I do relationship kind of advice, and it's
more interesting.
It's far more interesting. Everybody clicks when when there's a video that says why men cheat or why women cheat, but no one clicks when they say why do you get anxious? They don't really care about that. So what happened is I started doing more relationship kind of coaching, and it kind of took off on social media a bit from there. And now I just kind of try and join podcasts and try and just get a message out there about how to have more healthy relationships.
So did you go to university in the UK?
Yeah, I did a university, masters, everything in the UK. I became a psychology teacher for a while. And
what was that like?
Great in London. I really enjoyed it in London because the kids are really raw and they're really energetic and they teach you so much. They keep you young. Have you ever worked with kids or anything?
No, not that often.
They're really good fun because they keep you young. But in Dubai, I just felt a little bit like they're so well set up in life. They've got their nannies, they've got their chefs. They're good to go. They don't need you as much. So I felt like maybe my services would be better if I do it online and reach the people that may not be able to afford therapy, but then we offer them a form of therapy online. So I thought maybe that would be a better route. So just kind of went more towards doing online stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you pretty busy?
No, I live a great life. I'm usually on JBR.
No, I mean, are you busy with business? A lot of people come and ask you for help.
They are? I'm very grateful. I have a really good. Do you know what the good thing is? My message isn't for everybody. So what happens is the clients that come to me really want the same goal, which is how do we create a healthy relationship dynamic, and how do we become good parents to children? So what happens is I don't appeal to everybody. I'm totally okay with that. But the clients I do appeal to, we're a good fit. So I'm nice and busy, but I get more freedom with my time now. Now I select when I see clients, and then I get to enjoy a bit of Dubai life as well. Whereas before I was just work. Now it's a good balance. Do you find that you get a bit of a balance, or are you just work mode?
No, I've definitely got a balance. I've kind of created this lifestyle for myself where I can pick and choose when I work. Yeah. And I go through phases where I will work a lot. Yeah. But then I'm like, you know what? I want a bit of time off. So then I just...
And is there times where you just have like a holiday and just time off? Or is okay. Oh, that's good.
Well, there was a period when I was in my late 20s, early 30s where I probably did too much of that.
Okay.
So that's why we come back, we start the podcast and we're grinding.
But you know what? When you live in Dubai, life feels like a bit of a holiday. So you don't crave that kind of break from work as much as you used to, like in the UK.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I can literally just go downstairs to the beach for an hour and then just come back up.
I don't know if can they see your view from your place?
You're missing out. They can't right now, but I think they've seen it before.
You need to see it. It's incredible. So you've got it good. You've got it not too bad, I have to say. It's amazing in here, right? Yeah. Yeah, you can't complain.
So I think it's safe to say in today's modern society, the whole dating and relationship scene is trickier than it used to be.
It's unhealthy. Yeah. I was doing something recently where I was just talking about how current dating is just practicing for divorce. We have very little kind of ethics and cultures that create a long-lasting marriage, and we're teaching people exactly how to get divorced, how to have short-term connections, how to move on quickly, how to break up and then start again, how to have very little attention and patience. So we're creating an environment and a culture where we have perfect candidates for divorce, unfortunately.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's largely due to social media?
I think it's massively had a huge impact because more so than anything, it's reduced our desire to invest in people. Everybody seems disposable. You can quickly send a message to somebody else. You can quickly move on. You can quickly post a picture and new people will come into your DMs. So there is no motivation to make things work when they get tricky. So that's why, and social media hasn't been ideal for relationships.
I feel like back in the day, there was more of a motivation to actually put in some effort to make a relationship work.
Absolutely.
Whereas now, it's like you said, it's very disposable.
Yes.
And even I've experienced it myself.
Yeah.
Like if there's been times where I've got into arguments and I'm like, do you know what? Screw this. Like, bye. I'll move on to the next. But that's not a healthy way to look at it.
But the thing is, what it's done is given everybody alternatives. So the average person now has alternatives if they have social media or if they have a Tinder account or whatever it is. Whereas before, the lack of alternatives makes you invest. Now there's so many alternatives that there is no desire to invest anymore, unfortunately.
What do you think of this quote? I asked Myron about this. He actually quoted it in his book. Most women want to get married and have children. Very few want to be wives and mothers.
I understand where he's coming from with that. I do understand where he's coming from.
It's not his quote, but it's a quote he used.
Okay, yeah. I understand where the person is coming from that with. In my experience of working with, clients and couples, wives and mothers involves being quite nurturing. And it's a selfless role. When you become a mother, you realize that, the crying baby doesn't care if you're hungry, tired, sleeping. It's an automatic selfless role. And in this hedonistic society where there's so much pleasure available, being selfless is becoming a dying trait. So I do think, I understand I don't think people understand the level of selflessness that it takes to maintain a healthy marriage and children. And they almost expect faithfulness, loyalty. They expect the marriage to work because that's what it used to be. But now we have to work on it, unfortunately. It's not going to come effortlessly, and that requires selflessness.
What would you say you are? Would you say you're the type of person right now you're completely focused on your career and you want that family life, you want to be a mother, but you're not ready for it right now?
Well, no, I would say I'm always ready. But the thing is, I'm also a difficult person. I'm a very difficult person. I'm not the easiest. I'm quite I see red flags and everything. So I can't just think even with kids, I'm like, oh, we can just do this. But in my head, I'm like, yeah, but that's not safe for them. That's not good for them. That's not this. So my head it's part of
You're looking at the potential father.
Unfortunately, everything is a problem. Everything is, even just taking the kids here, there and everywhere, my brain goes to, that can affect them. That can be a bad thing. So unfortunately, it does make it difficult. Knowing too much is difficult. Yeah, unfortunately.
And I guess Dubai is a very unique place. Although it has its similarities to a lot of major cities around the world, Dubai it's fascinating.
It's very it's an incredible learning curve when you're watching how couples evolve in Dubai. There's very unique problems in Dubai.
How long have you been here for?
2.5 years. Yeah. And what I find in Dubai is the only city in the world where the women run circles on the men without the men having a clue. It's the only city in the world. Every other city is the men that are a bit of the men are annoying or this, that, and the other. This is the only city in the world where the women are running circles on the men and they have no idea.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is there are women out here who've got their house paid for, their rent paid for, they got their car and they got an allowance and they're using that money to go on dates with their boyfriend while their husband's at work. And he thinks he's smart.
Yeah, these aren't local women, by the way.
No, never local. Never local.
These are some of the women that have come from
these are people that come from
places.
That's it. That's what
they come here. They're on a mission.
They're on a mission.
They know how to finesse men.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're so finessable. The guys are the problem here. The women are not the problem. We've got to remember that there's a reason why jobless women come here, because they find men dumb enough to invest all their hard work and energy into a woman simply because she's 20 years younger, or simply because she's his type physically, or simply because she's a yoga instructor. It would be stupid of them not to take advantage of that. The men have lost their ability to see straight when it comes to the women here, and they go for trouble. They look for trouble. There'll be a good, wholesome woman, and there'll be a woman with all the red flags in the world, and they zoom in on that woman.
Yeah.
As we all know.
Yeah, I've definitely been there. I've learned from my mistakes. And when I see red flags now, I know I either swerve it completely or I know what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah, I think
that's very important. If you are dating in Dubai, you just need to understand what you could potentially be getting
That's
into.
what the thing is. They think that because they're rich and they provide for her, she's not going to go anywhere. What they don't know is the women in Dubai, you are one of 50 rich men they know. They know 50 millionaires. They know 50 men in that industry. So if you think your money's going to keep her, you're deluded, unfortunately. Your competition isn't other men. Your competition is what she's out here for, her goal. And if her goal is simply to collect, it doesn't matter. If you're the best man in the room, you're going to get finessed. It's
interesting because I always try and figure out why is it that a woman has gone down this route? Why is she taking this path? There's these choices which they make, which kind of require the least amount of work.
Yeah.
They will obviously most likely have to sacrifice quite a lot of self-respect and their pride in order to achieve what it is that they want to achieve. But why is that happening?
I think what I've noticed is that there's no reward in being a traditional good woman anymore. If you are a traditional woman who's got no pictures on Instagram, who isn't going out all day, every day, who isn't sleeping around and isn't getting lots of surgery and not putting on loads of makeup, and you're simple, just a traditional woman, there's no reward in that. You will never find a date. You'll never find a man that says, here, let me take you out. Here, let me do this. Whereas if you are the most promiscuous, provocative, dangerous woman, your DMs are endless and you are booked every single day of the week, and you get to choose which country you want to fly out to. So humans are going to look at where's the most reward, and they're going to lean towards whatever's the easiest and most rewarding and profitable, unfortunately.
It's a shame because I'm doing this podcast and I want it to be fairly even in terms of like the male guests and the female guests.
Yeah.
So I'm actively looking for female guests, but I know lots of women who have built up a large following.
Yeah.
But how they've done that is by usually exposing themselves.
Yeah, it's questionable.
So it's difficult to find women out there who are, they have a decent job. They're hardworking. They're someone who other women would sort of respect. It's not easy. It's
impossible because, and that's what makes it difficult for women who aren't along those lines, because they're thinking, I don't know, especially when you look on social media, they're thinking, my guy's never bought me a handbag. My husband's never taken me to these nice places. My guy's never done that. And then you take a woman who's incredibly promiscuous online, and whatever she wants in life, she gets to get. So you start to realize that men reward promiscuity, they reward toxicity, they reward non-traditional values, but then they claim they want a good woman. And then you're like, this is strange. What they're saying and what they're doing is different. Look at what they're saying. They want good traditional women, but look at what they're investing in. They're investing in the woman with her entire body out, and a lot of the other things men will say is, I want a natural woman, no makeup. But you see who they're following on Instagram. It's nothing but surgeries, fillers, this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, you're saying this, but what are you actually investing your time and energy into and your resources into?
Well, you know, I was doing some research before this podcast, looking at your Instagram page and like the interview you did with Tam and Tate.
Yes. Yeah.
And it actually made me think, who
am I following?
Yeah. And I know there's definitely some accounts which... questionable accounts.
Of course.
And then I realized, I'm a part of the problem because I'm by following them,
you're giving them
I'm supporting them
success.
in a weird way.
Well, it's not in a weird way, it's in a direct way. Not just you, but it's everybody. Like if I learn that if I just post a picture of my cooking and if I post a picture of like me just teaching my kids something, no one's rewarding that. But if I post a picture of me in my bikini and I get 10,000 followers and I get brand deals as a result of that and I get free clothes and I get free makeup, we're looking at the women, but really women are the supply. The demand is who are they going towards? The men are investing in there's men out there that will pay 10 grand for a picture of a woman's feet.
Yeah.
And there's another woman who's thinking, okay, I can go to university, study, and then, do something. Or another girl can post a picture of her feet and then make that same money in a day. And then we're going to think, what are young, impressionable women who don't have father figures or don't have people that are supporting them at home? Where are they going to go?
I haven't, this was an interesting scenario. When I was in Bali, I got speaking to I think she was either Filipino or she was from Indonesia. So it's a relatively poor country.
Right.
So she came from an extremely poor family, and there was really no hope for her. There was the education was poor.
Yeah.
She couldn't get any kind of a job.
Yeah.
Pretty girl.
Yeah.
She decided to start OnlyFans.
Okay.
Now she became very successful on that, has made huge amounts of money, still making a lot of money.
Right.
And she's actually been able to take her entire family out of poverty.
Yeah. She's changed the generation for herself.
This is kind of weird because I always had this view of OnlyFans girls, and it usually wasn't like the best.
Yeah, they just want a bag or something like that.
But when I think of these individuals who are not coming from the most affluent of backgrounds, when they are actually using that money to support their family, I'm thinking,
yeah.
And maybe there was no other way she could have done that.
But that's the thing. Like, if you take a girl who's suffering in Bali or Indonesia and she asks somebody to help me and my dad, we're living in a really poor conditions, men will say, no, that's your problem. But if she says, I'll have sex with you or I'll sell a picture of me naked, he'll be like, okay, how much do you need? Now, when men are rewarding promiscuity, what do you expect the women to do? What do you expect them to do? And we've got all these issues about women are no longer traditional, women are this, women are that. I'm not saying that they're not, but why are we rewarding that so much? And what do you expect somebody who's poor and hasn't got like a financial stable home or hasn't got father figure, mother figure? She's looking online and seeing what men like. Women go towards what men like. We do, whether we like it or not. We are dictated by male preferences. That's why our hair color will change. The surgeries will change based on what men like. The men will watch a lot of porn, have a preference, women become that. That's what society looks like now. And then they're just mad at the girl, but they're mad at the very girl that they're following every day on Instagram and liking and DMing.
Yeah.
It's like,
it baffles me because I find out how much money they're making. And I'm like, who are these guys that are paying for that?
Who are these guys? Let's
imagine a scenario where they snapped out of it.
Yeah.
And then all men just stop their OnlyFans subscriptions.
Yeah.
What would happen then?
Yeah, but then we are encouraging...
Society would generally be better, wouldn't it?
They're the source, yeah? Like, it's like, you can blame the drug dealer, but they wouldn't have a market if there was no drug addicts. And the reality is, who looks more stupid, the drug dealer or the drug addict? The drug dealer can then clean out his money and live a great life. The drug addict is the one who's living with shame, guilt, embarrassment, a less fulfilling life. Same thing as these men that follow the women or invest in OnlyFans. The woman is clearing up, but you're the one that's still there like a loser, not learning how to talk to women in real life, not learning how to invest in women in real life. You're the idiot, not her. So we need to stop blaming the OnlyFans girls and be like, you're the trash. But really, the trash is the person that's subscribing. That's the issue. I believe anyway. What do you think?
I think it's the problem. Yeah. I feel like I have never paid for any subscription, any picture, anything, any escort, nothing. So I feel like, in a sense, I'm doing my part.
Yeah.
Maybe I could definitely be doing better with who I'm following, but it's improving. And I'm pretty sure after this podcast, I'm going to be doing a cleanse because everyone's going to be looking at who I'm following after.
Yeah, but it's natural. Who wouldn't want to follow a stunning, beautiful girl? I get it. And I could argue that the women should stop posting that. But the reality is there's no negative consequences to posting badly. There's before, like I've said before, if I was a woman posting provocative pictures, I would know that there's going to be men who would judge me and never want to be with me. Now there's men queuing up to be with that girl, and they see it as a prize. Like, oh my God, your girl's so hot, blah, blah. She's got her body done and she's on Instagram. They see it as a prize. They don't see it as a bad thing. So there's no negative consequences from being promiscuous as a woman anymore, because the men don't mind. They actually encourage it. So I don't know, maybe it's a chicken and egg, maybe it's a both thing, but we can't blame one or the other.
So speaking of promiscuity and body count, do you think it matters? What are your thoughts? Okay, so a woman's got a high body count. Do you think that's an issue?
I think it's no more of an issue than when a man has a body count. That's
Really?
really high. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's quite debatable.
Yeah.
I would say if a man's got a high body count, obviously the woman's probably not going to be too happy with that. But from that, the man's going to gain a lot of experience.
Yeah.
He may even potentially get quite a lot of whatever it is out of his system.
Yeah.
Because if a man, let's say for example, if he gets married very early, he's only been with one or two women. When he gets to 30s, mid-30s, maybe he's going to start thinking, I didn't really have that period of time where I could just go on a bit of a mad one.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has a hoe phase, both males and females. Yeah. A lot of them.
So
I think, I mean, it's if you're talking about like in the hundreds or thousands, okay, that's probably a red flag.
Yeah.
But there's an amount where I feel like it's almost a necessity for a man to have a greater understanding of different women.
Yeah.
And even just how to be in the bedroom.
Well, I was talking about this quite recently, and I always say it's bad for both, but worse for men. And I'll tell you why. Worse for men. I'll tell you why. Because this is what happens. When you have a high body count, man or woman, you have to drop your standards in order to have a high body count, either in the women that you're investing in or the treatment you're getting.
I think it depends who you are.
It depends who you are, but the reality is even if you're Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever it is, you have to choose a woman who's very promiscuous for her to be okay with one night stands. So what's happening is you're now getting used to women who are calling their boyfriend and saying, babe, I'll be home in 10 minutes while she's in your bed. You are getting used to women who are like sleeping with you and then going off to sleep with your friend the next day. You are getting used to women who don't even reply and don't care if you have see them again or not. You are getting used to such low quality of women that when you meet a girl who's also low quality, but she's slightly above the usual promiscuous hoe that you're used to, you start glorifying her and thinking she's amazing because your comparison level has dropped so low. You are so used to that woman that has nude pictures online, or the one that's cheating on her boyfriend to sleep with you, or the one that is just sleeping with you and your friends. You're so used to such a low level of woman, you no longer have the skills and tools required to speak, to communicate, or be with a wholesome, good woman that can maintain a marriage. You are now going to attract another broken person because your standards have dropped. And the other thing that I would say is when you sleep around, there is no way you can sleep around with so many people and not feel some level of shame and guilt, because there's always that girl that you meet and then in the morning you're like, oh, please go away. There's always that, no matter what. So when you get that level of shame and guilt, the only way to feel better about yourself is to start saying, well, it's only sex. It doesn't matter. Oh, it doesn't matter if she was a bit shit. It's only sex. When you start having that attitude, it's only sex, and minimizing the importance of sex, there is no way you can nurture that in a long-lasting monogamous relationship. You'll think it's only sex, so you can have it outside of the relationship. You'll be more polygamous. So whereas for women, it's not good either. I'm not saying it's a good thing for women, but men risk pregnancies. Yeah. Women can get rid of a baby. They have let's say a woman doesn't want to be with you. She has a baby, she gets pregnant, she gets rid of it that day. But say the average woman, if she gets pregnant with Mike fucking Thurston, she's keeping it. And you have no say in that. And now you're either stuck with this woman for the rest of your life, like to some degree, or you think, I'm not dealing with this, that's your problem, I'll pay for it, but I don't want anything to do with it. But your child is now being raised in the hands of a man that you don't know or respect, by a woman you don't know or respect. It's a big risk for a man. And all because you want to be more skilled in the bedroom. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it.
I think I would definitely say if you are used to sleeping with lots of different women, it's harder for you to settle down with just one. Because after a while, you will more than likely start to miss the days when you were sleeping around.
You miss novelty. You just miss novelty. It's not that you enjoy sleeping around. How sex is sex. How great can it be? But it's difference, new. Men are designed to like novelty. Now, when you've done that so many times, to then be with one person for the rest of your life becomes almost impossible. And so what you do is you start minimizing how good monogamy is. You're like, oh, that sounds boring. But the reality is children need it. Children need it. Your parents need it. They like to see that you're monogamous in a relationship. Your children are being raised well. And also the other thing is people think that high body count means good in bed. Actually, men that have 2 or 3 good long-term relationships know a woman's body better than men who sleep around lots of one-night stands. Because the one-night stand guy that's had 1,000 bodies is just learning what makes him feel good.
But it depends if that woman didn't unlock that man's
But usually
peak.
women he's in a relationship do that with better than the one-night stand. She's not going to... A man that's a one-night stand with a girl he doesn't respect, he's like, I don't need to give you the best night. I just need to... And then you can go. But when you are in a long-term committed relationship, you invest time and energy to be pleasing and satisfying. So it's actually not linked to satisfaction. Men that come out of long-term relationships with maybe a few partners tend to be better than ones that have been 1,000 one-night stands because they learn the skills and etiquettes it takes to create intimacy.
What I think is also interesting when it comes to female body count, obviously I'm not a fan of high female body count, but let's say, for example, if she has been with extremely highly successful men in that top 1%, then it wouldn't bother me as much in comparison to if she'd just been sleeping around with a load of losers.
Why is that? I understand, but why do you think...
She's got standards.
She's got standards.
And she's obviously smart and has an ability to be worthy of dating or being with those top 1%.
But do you think high-value top percentage men actually choose wisely? I have a theory that high-value top percentage men are more likely to be cheated on.
Really?
Yeah, than the
Why?
average Joe. Because here's the difference. Somebody, let's take the 2 reasons. Firstly, they choose badly to begin with. Let's take, I'm not saying you do this, but somebody like you, if you wanted to, there's not a woman that you couldn't DM that wouldn't reply, read it. There's very few women that wouldn't, that would leave you on the scene. So you have the pick of the world. You're not like the average Jimmy in his mum's basement who can only talk to Janet in HR. You can talk to whoever you want. Now, when you can talk to whoever you want, you are going to pick the most out there woman. You're not going to pick Caitlin in Starbucks. You are going to pick bad bitch.
But because of my dating experience, I'm 32 years old now.
Yeah.
I've made mistakes and I've learned from them.
Maybe. But
I literally now, if I'm looking to date or I'm looking to really settle down, I know exactly the type of girl who I want to look for.
But majority of the time, you are going to find it difficult to be with Kathy from Starbucks when you are used to a girl with 10 million followers.
No, because that comes with so much headache.
But the majority of high-value men are because you can pick who you want. Who's going to go for plain Jane when he can have his dream girl? You can have your dream girl as a high... if you're a top...
Yeah, but I don't think my dream girl is someone... She's not an influencer. She's not...
Perhaps not for you now, but the majority of really successful, good-looking men, they can choose their dream girl head to toe. They're not going to settle for the average discreet woman. They're going to choose their dream girl. That dream girl comes with a different set of problems. She's not just your dream girl. She's everybody's dream girl. And that girl is more likely to know 10 of you. She doesn't know just one high-value man. She knows 10. So what happens is the selection process is damaged. They choose the sexiest girl thinking that because they're so high-value, she's going to be with me, and therefore she's going to be loyal.
A lot of men will do that for status as well because they want to be seen with that top woman.
They want to be seen with that. So these rich men, they'll choose that type of girl and think she's going to submit and be loyal to them, but not knowing that girl, she's got 10 of you in her DMs. And she's got your attention because she's provocative and promiscuous. So those values haven't changed in her just because she's met you. So you're thinking, oh, she's with me, she's going to change. You're not ignoring that she comes with a culture of I use my body to get men to do whatever they want for me. You're not going to be the one and only. So what happens is these rich men, because of their selection process, they're actually more likely to be cheated on, and because they also have this false sense of security. They think, where is she going to find another me? Yeah. And the reality is your competition is not other men. Your competition is her traumas.
Well, do you know as well, they're probably too busy with their work. They're not properly pleasing the woman.
With really high-value men, they're so naive about women. Because they think, you're not going to get any better than me. But women don't want better. They want what they're used to. So if you meet a woman whose dad was an alcoholic or a dad was abusive or didn't grow up with a father figure, she will have a high-value rich man who treats her really well and cheat with her toxic PT in the back of his Nissan. And you're thinking, but you've got a rich billionaire, but she's like, I want that chaos. So your competition is never other men. Your competition is her values and her culture. And when you pick a woman who is the dream girl, her values and cultures are not monogamous. Unfortunately. So they actually, whereas the average guy who can't choose those women is going to pick an average girl who isn't as swamped with options, he's less likely to be cheated on.
Would you agree that a man who is extremely attractive and a woman who is extremely attractive, when they get together, it's just going to be problems? Because the man might be insecure and jealous, and the woman might be the same.
It can work really well if they have no kind of concerns and they're happy to lock off all alternatives. We always match better with people who are equal to us. Always. Looks-wise, finances, right? Our equal. We always match better, and it's called the matching hypothesis. You actually last longer. The problem is these people tend to have too many alternatives. When problems arise, there's so many alternatives, and it doesn't even have to be other men or other women. It can be like, I'm going to go on holiday with my friends. Whereas when you meet people with very little options, you take the average person, when you go back to Leeds and you see couples that have been together for 20, 30 years since you were in high school and they're still together. But if you look at their options, it's less. They're actually more satisfied. So the less options you have, the more invested and satisfied you are in your relationship. So it's actually, unfortunately, more options doesn't mean more happiness.
Yeah, because I think if you have more options, you have more desire. And if you don't fulfill those desires, then you're going to be unhappy.
Yeah, and also when you have more options, you have less tolerance. You're thinking, you can't talk to me like that. I've got so many other guys. Or you're thinking, she can't deny me. I've got so many other options. And so it's that you have low tolerance for flawed behavior. Yeah.
What would you describe as being a top 1% female?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because I hear it all the time, men. But
well, I do think beauty and all these things, you can't ignore that. Like, obviously, she has to be aesthetically, she has to be pleasing. But I just think that if she is the most beautiful girl in the world, but she is available and accessible to lots of men, and she's disloyal to you, she loses her value. Because she makes you look like an idiot and she makes herself look accessible. So without that loyalty factor, and loyalty doesn't just mean she's not sleeping with other men. Loyalty also means she's not exposing herself to other men. Because before, you'd have to work to see a girl naked, really, really have to work for it. If she's allowing access to the rest of the society to see that, I do think it takes away her mystery. So a 1% woman would have to make her man look like somebody that other men are jealous of. And now, if other men can still see your girlfriend naked, then less jealous of you. They're just less jealous of you. So
why are they doing that then?
Because, like I said, they get rewarded for it. They're
more
likely to, but they're going to meet a 1% man.
No, but let's say, for example, that they're already in a relationship with a good guy. Why did they continue to do it?
I would say if you're in a relationship with a good guy and being satisfied are two different things. I think when you're with a good guy and he treats you well and he's really kind to you, but if you're a chaotic woman and you crave chaos, what will happen is you always need validation from other men. You always need reminding that you can be with other men whenever you need it. But if you're a woman who's so happy to stop all of that just to be with one man, you'll stop posting. If your woman is still posting, there's a part of her that doesn't feel totally satisfied with the love you give her. And it's not got nothing to do with you. It might be to do with her own insecurities before she entered the relationship. And they haven't been resolved yet.
Well, I think there's definitely some couples or individuals who just crave drama.
Yeah.
I've been with some women who they just want to pick fights. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, why?
But do you think that men tend to, and women, do you think people attach to people who give them more drama?
I think the excitement makes things more interesting.
Yeah.
It keeps each other on their toes.
Yeah. And they
like,
get preoccupied.
I'm sure if me being the way I am now definitely keeps my partner on her toes. I'm not being like disrespectful or doing anything bad, but there's an element of mystery.
Right.
So because I live by myself,
she's
always thinking, maybe what is he doing?
Yeah.
And I say, I'm going out for dinner. And then she'll be like, who's going out to dinner?
Do you believe in monogamy? Do you believe in being faithful? Or do you think it's difficult in this day and age?
I do. I think it probably is one of the main things which is going to allow for a successful relationship to flourish. I just think it's really, really hard.
And what would it require for you to be monogamous?
I just have to be very disciplined.
Okay.
I think it's largely just down to discipline. Because if you are like top 1% man, you're always going to have those options until maybe you get too old.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have the urges.
Yeah.
Men have urges, sexual desires with different women. That's just the way it is.
And
so those men who are in successful relationships and they don't cheat, it's mostly down to the fact that they're extremely disciplined and they can control their emotions.
And do you think that makes him more high value than a man that is
Technically on paper, way more high value.
So do you agree
that is the ultimate.
That is but the thing is, the ultimate source of high value is self-control. If you can exercise self-control, you start to respect yourself more. Every time, think of the times where you could have cheated and you said no, you feel like a superhero. You're like, oh my God, I rejected her. I feel so good about myself. Or even when
But not when the relationship's over.
You know what I mean. Or even like when it's getting drunk or something like that, and you control yourself. You're like, no, I'm not drinking tonight. And every time we exercise self-control, we gain self-respect, and every time we gain self-respect, we gain self-esteem. So the man that doesn't give in to his impulses is the most free man in the world. Whereas the man that just, if I want it, I do it. Because a lot of this red pill kind of conversation is a strong man, as a high value man, does what he wants. No, the reality is a high value man who can resist temporary desires for long-term goals. Doesn't drink because he's got work tomorrow. Doesn't sleep with that girl because he doesn't want to get rid of her in the morning. He thinks about his long-term self. Self-control is true freedom, not doing whatever you want, because that's nonsense.
And that's the big thing, obviously, when it comes to getting in shape.
Absolutely.
That's why there's so many men that struggle to get in shape, not because they're not going to the gym, but just because they don't have that discipline outside of the gym. They're not eating the things they should be eating. They're going out, they're drinking, they're not sleeping.
Self-respect you have when you get a six-pack. Think of how much it's like, oh my God, how much self-esteem and self-respect you get in a six-pack. Now apply that mentality to women and money. If a man can do it for his mind, like if he can do it for money, which is his mind, body, which is women, and gym, imagine how much of a high value man he can. Self-control. And then what it does is it means that no one can drift him. He's got a clear goal. Self-control is the most amazing thing a high value man can have. So this idea that he has to sleep around with lots of girls and does what he wants, what he should want to do is be controlled by his own kind of long-term goals.
I agree. So I have a load of questions which I have put together based on just going through your Instagram. And this is just general questions on dating and relationships. So let's talk a little bit about initiating that first contact. So do you think is there a better way to approach a stranger? Is it easier to DM somebody, or is it better to approach them in person?
Depending on who the woman is, I think online there's a lot of competition if she's got an open profile. If she hasn't, then it's a bit easier. In person is always better because people can read your energy. And that is something that you can't always get online. So I think in person, and if you just remove the reason why men get nervous is they're thinking, is she going to reply? Is she going to say no? Forget about that. Just make it.
I think the nerves are much higher in person. DMing someone takes nothing.
Do you get nervous speaking to girls in person?
Not anymore. I used to though.
Did you? Why?
Because it was, I don't know, maybe it was just a fear of rejection.
But who cares if she rejects? There's a million others.
I think what a lot of women don't understand is that it's not nice to be rejected because you are, let's say for example,
we forget.
You see someone you like or you're attracted to, you actually are building up quite a lot of this self-confidence and plucking up the courage to go over and speak to her.
Yeah.
And then for you to literally just get shot down, it is like, it's quite soul destroying.
If it really
imagine.
is. As a girl, we don't have to experience
that. No, it's like, it's hardcore. And if, let's say, for example, maybe you do that 2 or 3 times, you get shot down 3 times, your confidence is going to be like rock bottom.
But does it sometimes make you immune to getting rejected?
But that's why I recommend guys just keep doing it again.
You get immune to it.
When you do it so often, you do become immune to it. So that's why you should do something that scares you every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. So you become immune to it. And you'll find that you'll get rejected by one girl and then another girl who's better looking than her will be responsive. So it's not really, the thing is men personalize rejection. So many times it's because she's having a fight with her boyfriend, she's had a bad day. It's got nothing to do with you a lot of the time. There's times where you're in a great mood and there's a guy you're not interested in and you'll still be responsive. You're like, hey, yeah, take my number because you're in a good mood. And there's other times you're in a terrible mood and it doesn't matter who he is. You don't want to speak to it. Don't personalize the rejection. It's not about you. Most of the time, it's not about you.
I think for me, I'm clearly at an advantage when it comes to the online approach. Stuff, because I can send a DM and it's like, okay, well, 1 million followers, blue tick, and like the pictures.
Yeah.
That can work in my favor, but it can also not work in my favor because the type of woman who I'm actually attracted to is not into guys like me on the surface.
Yeah.
So there's been a few times I've been with women when they've told me after we've been together for a while, they're like, when I initially saw your profile, I was like, no way, like hell no, I'm not getting involved with this guy, because they assume the worst.
Yeah.
Like realistically, you come across my profile for the first time. What do you think?
Oh, there'd be no way. I would be like, blocker.
What am I? Just like red flag.
Absolutely. You would just think like he's just going to cheat. He's just going to be with a bunch of women. And also the girl, I would think he won't like me. The girl would always just think I'm not going to be enough. Like he won't like me.
Well,
and that's what
a lot
I think
of people,
majority of girls would
they say to me, oh, you must get loads of DMs.
Yeah.
And it's not actually as many as you'd think, because I think the women probably just look at my profile and just like, wait, no way.
Yeah.
And they don't want to be shot down or ignored.
Have you ever done like a public relationship where you and your partner like kind of make it all about on your Instagram and stuff?
Not Instagram, but YouTube.
And how did that work out?
Not well. That's why...
how do you find that? Like, how is it?
Well, so I did it during lockdown.
Okay.
So there wasn't really much to do.
Yeah.
And I was kind of not only running out of content, but people were starting to notice that I was with somebody else in my apartment. So I was like, do you know what? I'll just... Yeah. I was much more open at that point in time.
Right.
I generally feel like I'm quite open anyway. Yeah. But that was the first time I'd maybe the second time where I'd really talked about the relationship that I was in.
Right.
And she was in the videos, we were talking. And people were actually like really loving it. Like my views were actually going up because people liked seeing just me with a woman.
Yeah.
But the problem was, like, I've got thick skin, so I can take any shit which people give me. But she didn't necessarily. So YouTube comments are the absolute worst of all comments.
And the worst.
Because Instagram, like, your identity is linked to a comment. YouTube, it's anonymous. Right. It's like a weird username and no picture.
Yeah.
So people are a bit more ruthless.
Yeah.
So obviously there was a load of negative comments about her, maybe the way she looks, whatever it is. Like, even though she's a beautiful girl, people always have something bad to say.
Negative to say.
So I would just say to her, don't look at the comments.
Right.
Of course she looks at the comments. So that messes with her head. But I think the main sort of issue and problems came about when the relationship ended or came to an end. And I kind of foolishly was speaking my thoughts and sharing it with people. And I think the problem was people didn't get the full context of the situation.
Yeah.
And they were just getting like little snippets of it. And actually looking back, I didn't look very good. Right. Like, she looked like a victim and I looked like I was doing something really bad. But that wasn't the reality. Right. Because it was a point where I was leaving Dubai and I was going to Spain. Right. So I was saying how it's obviously going to be an issue, like the whole long distance relationship thing. Yeah. But anyway, so I got a load of negative feedback, particularly from women. Right. Over the way that I handled that. Right. And I didn't present it properly. But then the worst part was, because I'd been so open, sharing with my entire community who she was, everybody knew about her. So the moment that she kind of stopped appearing in the videos, everyone was asking, where is she? What's happening? And then everybody would go to her and then ask her the same questions, like, where's Mike? What's happened with Mike? What's going on? And this was going on for months. Yeah. And even when I came back to Dubai, people started messaging us saying, you're going to get back with Mike. And this wasn't making it easier for her to kind of get over me. Yeah. And then when I was in Ibiza at the time, so people they were watching my stories or other people's stories. Yeah. Maybe I'd been there and other women had been around me. They would send that story to her. Yeah. And it's like, she doesn't need to be seeing that. We're not in a relationship anymore, but you're just...
And it must be hard for her when she moves on, like knowing that, who the person, like say she was to meet another man, he would be like, that's your ex. It must be a hard...
because she wasn't massive on social media. Right. So she's known as Mike Thurston's ex. Yeah, of course. That's not
is
good.
What it is. Yeah, it's not.
Like, she needs to be her own identity, not, oh, that's Mike Thurston's ex.
Yeah. So you wouldn't recommend it? You wouldn't do it again?
No, only when I'm with the one, starting a family, inshallah. That's when I'll be very public about it. Okay. But for now, I've found that the more you keep it private, the less drama you have. Yeah, you don't need to. You have... With everybody, there's a certain percentage of their following who are absolute psychopaths. Yeah. The larger your following, the higher the number of psychopaths there are. Yeah. So they are going to want to cause drama. Always.
Yeah. And they've got time. Yeah. You would be so surprised how much time these people have to find the information, send it to this person, write the comments. So it's better to just, keep it private.
But I mean, it's up to the individual, because sometimes it's nice to see relationship stuff, but you don't want to overdo it. Because if you overdo it, people are like, okay, great. Like,
but
we get it.
I think we forget people aren't always happy for everyone. And that's the problem with social media, because the people that spend the most time in it usually are the ones that aren't that happy. And so you can attract a lot of that hate.
So yeah, going back to the original point, like I generally would, if I'm approaching someone for the first time, I would prefer to do it in person.
Right.
And I don't mean doing it in a bar or a club, because you're not going to find the right woman there. You can barely have a proper conversation anyway. Yeah. But it'd be in the daytime if I see somebody.
Is a gym a good place for you to meet people?
Yes, but I understand that women are there to, I mean, obviously some of them want attention, but some of them just want to go to the gym and work out.
Yeah.
And they are getting hit on a lot anyway by different guys. So I don't want to be the fifth guy that's gone up to him and be like, hey, you need to help me.
Yeah, but like, you might be the guy that she's hoping does do that.
So what I usually do is, if I do like, for someone who I like, I will wait until they've done the workout. Okay. And then I'll maybe try and catch them afterwards. That's perfect. But not like go stand there like a little weirdo in the changing room.
Asking her, is she using this? And don't do that. Just wait till she's finished, and then that's a gentleman way to do it. Yeah.
And you're more than likely going to have a much higher chance of like some sort of a decent relationship if you meet somebody in like day-to-day life and scenarios. Yeah. So if you're at the beach, like a nice chilled out beach club or the gym. Yeah.
Doing something that you both would be doing anyway, it's a good way to know if you've got some similarities.
So the next question is about dating and the first date. From my experience, a mistake which a lot of men make is they try go all out on the very first date.
Right.
And not only does that set the expectations quite high, but you end up potentially investing a lot of time and money into something which isn't really going to work out. So what I always recommend is, sometimes if I go on the first date, just go for a walk or go for a coffee. Right. And then within the first 10, 15 minutes, you can see if you're going to vibe with someone or not.
Somebody like you can do that because she already knows what you bring to the table. But sometimes girls will be like, oh, he's not, I don't know. Like, say if she just met a random guy, she doesn't know what he is, and she's thinking he doesn't want to invest or do anything, depending on the type. But it does weed out that girl.
So you think that person should take them on a fancy date?
No, I think take them where you would be going anyway. So if your normal day-to-day life, you go for dinner and you go for Nando's, take her to Nando's. If your normal day-to-day life is going to Namos, take her to Namos. This is what I always say to men.
If you ask a girl, hey, do you want to go to Nando's? She's not going to like that, though.
Some girls, but if that's your day-to-day life and that's her day-to-day life, if that's not her day-to-day life, you've already cut the crap. You're not compatible. So what I always say to men is, women should come into your world. You be the man, she comes into your world. Now, your world doesn't have to be 5-star, but you take her, so even if it's a case of like you can't afford a lot, that's not the problem. But you take her to a coffee shop where you can afford 2 coffees. Or you take her to, if you're going for Nando's, you can cover the bill. I always just say, take women into your world. That's the leadership. You're coming into my world now. So do where I would normally go to eat. You're coming where I normally go to eat. Now, where I normally spend my day. Now, if you're going out of your way and you're doing something you wouldn't normally do, you're not compatible. But if you're taking her and doing something that you would normally do, well, even if that's KFC, if that's a shisha or whatever it is, she's coming and seeing into your world. Now, if she fits, perfect. If she doesn't fit, no worries, but it's not yours. Take her into your world. That's what I always say. You hold her hand and you take her into your world. That's my advice if you want to be the leader in the connection.
Who should pay on the first date?
You know what I'm going to say.
Men.
You know what I'm going to say. I of course. Of course, but the thing is, I'm from a different culture.
But I can't understand. I mean, the woman paying on the first date, I just think that's ludicrous. Yeah. But the splitting situation, if I was to say, oh, can we split this? Like, I've already ruined it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I understand for, like, in British culture, because the women are feminists and they do want to split it. I can understand it. But in Dubai culture, it's just, there's girls that know that they could go with a different man and never even have to fidget. So that's why it's a bit harder. But I do understand it in different cultures, because in different cultures, the women insist on paying and splitting. So I understand whatever works for you. But for me, and growing up in a Muslim environment and being from Dubai, it's just you don't.
The only time I would allow it would be if we'd already had a couple of dates.
Yeah.
She had
She
maybe
wants to.
invited me somewhere, and it's nothing crazy. It's nothing fancy. It's like paying for some food, which isn't really that expensive.
She wants to do it. Sometimes a woman's itching to do something back. She's always itching to do something back. And so you give her an opportunity to do something back. But at the same time, in the first date, she won't feel like it's a date if she split it. Mm-hmm. She would feel like she went to see a friend.
And I think it's very dependent upon how much money she's earning as well. Yeah. Like if I know she's not making that much money, then I would never allow her to pay. Yeah. But if I know she's got a good job and she's making dough, then I'd be like, okay, you can pay for that.
One thing I've noticed, women that are hyper successful, men say they like hyper successful women and they like independent women. But what independent women find is when we become like more financially stable, men don't give us the same investment. Whereas if we're a bum and don't have a job, they actually invest in us more. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's true?
I think so. This is a question which I wanted to ask you is if you have a man who's very masculine.
Yeah.
And they are together with a woman who has a lot of masculine traits. Yeah. Like they're very alpha, very independent, don't need a man, whatever. Do you think they can date? Because my experience of dating these alpha women doesn't end well.
No,
we clash.
It doesn't end well. But here's the reason I would say, because a lot of people say, oh, when women earn more than men, they're more likely to divorce them and more likely to end it. But the reality is the reason why they're more likely to end it is because men take their foot off the pedal when the woman is financially stable. But that same man will meet a woman who's unemployed, sits at home and watches TikTok all day and give her an allowance and support her and take her dinner and do all of these things. But that woman who's hustling and working hard, he doesn't even think to grab her lunch. So that's why she gets resentful that I'm working hard, and because I'm working hard, you're investing less. When really we should be rewarding the hard work because they still like to be looked after. It's not a financial thing.
For me, because of the way I'm wired, I just would not allow that to be the case. Yeah. If she's super successful, she's making loads of money, I'd be like, there's no way that she could be outdoing me. Like I have to be outdoing her. Yeah. Which is why I've noticed when I've been in a relationship with someone who was super smart and they're making a lot of money, and if anything, they're probably more intelligent than me. Yeah. Maybe I know more about certain topics than she does, but she's overall a really smart girl. Yeah. I find that really motivating, and it really encourages me to level up. Yeah. I remember, I think this was 2021, I was dating someone and she was extremely smart, and she was kind of, she's a healer. Right. So she's very much into psychology, but very smart. Yeah. Very well read. And being with her really encouraged me to level up because I wanted to impress her.
That's good. But the thing is,
but I know a lot of guys would probably feel inferior.
It might inspire a man, but it doesn't inspire him to invest in her. And women still seek investment. What happens is as the woman gets more successful, I know it sounds stupid because you're like, you can do it yourself. They end up feeling like no one's looking after them. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, I always say to women, just be a damsel in distress. Always be a damsel in distress, because when you show a man you're independent, he treats you like you're independent. And then they lose that dynamic of like being looked after. So if you want that feminine, masculine dynamic, you almost have to be the damsel in distress, because men do take their foot off the pedal when they know that you are financially stable. They let you do it yourself, but with another woman who's not so smart and not so successful, they do everything for. So women feel like they're almost shortchanged when they become successful, in my experience.
So speaking of dating, how do you know if you've been friend zoned or not?
The responsiveness from women. This is all it boils down to. If you are trying to contact a woman and you're getting delayed response and busy scheduling, she's not interested. It's really that simple. When a woman likes you, she will cancel plans. She cancels plans. She responds immediately. She becomes available. When she doesn't really like you that much, she's unavailable. It's really that simple. I always think you, as a man, friend zone yourself. People can friend zone themselves, or they don't. How you friend zone yourself is by not making your intentions clear. There are men that I'm friends with but are still not in my friend zone because they'll always make a flirty comment. They'll always remind me that they're interested in some way, shape. And I'm like, I'm trying to put you in the friend zone and you keep coming out of it. So I can't put them in the friend zone.
Do you think men and women could be friends?
Yeah, I do. But it takes a level of, both of them have to not be attracted to each other. Yeah, and I think you miss out on life when you aren't friends with the opposite sex. You miss out on so much in life because there's so many times where you might be fighting with your partner and you talk to your female friend and she's like, I can't believe you said that to you. And you talk to your male friend and you're like, don't be stupid. You know what that means? He's just a bit tired, blah, blah, blah. And they give you so much free game. They give you so much free advice. All of my videos, a lot of people will be like, how do you understand the male brain so well? A lot of the time it's because I'll call a male friend and they'll tell me, this is what it means when your man is doing this. This is what it means when he does that. They tell you everything.
Do you think if they had the opportunity, they would?
Absolutely. They're not blind. They'll do it, but they're not going to have the opportunity. Yeah, they're not going to. It's not about would they, it's the could they. If there's no could, then they can't. Yeah.
See, this is a big problem I've had in a lot of my relationships. Yeah. It's having other female friends because it has tended to be the case that they've
interested?
Well, I don't know if they're interested or not. Maybe they are, but they've been attractive.
Right.
That's a problem.
Okay.
So I can actually be friends with an attractive woman.
Yeah.
So I have discipline. Like I don't feel the need to sleep with every single attractive woman I see. If I did, I wouldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
So I have these female friends and I want to continue having those relationships with them, usually because they're very intelligent.
Yeah.
And just spending time with them, I learn a lot or they're very good contact to have.
Yeah, they're amazing.
But I have had so many arguments about this because they don't believe me.
But you know what? I think that, like I said, you gain so much. And I think that men that don't have female friends, they hypersexualize women. They get nervous around women. They think women are this really strange enigma. They lose their ability to have charm around women. But when you have lots of female friends, you realize they're flawed. You realize they're stupid. You realize it removes their mystery. So I think men that never have female friends and women that never have male friends, they get overexcited when they're around the opposite gender. Whereas when you've always had male or female friends, you recognize it's just a person. Whereas when you don't, you think it's a potential sexual contact and you get too excited. I think it's actually a bad thing if they have no male or no female friends, because then they tend to get too excited around the opposite gender. In my experience.
So we're in a relationship. Would you let me have hot friends?
No.
That goes against your point, though.
I know. Depends how hot. I don't mind. I know. To be fair, I wouldn't mind too much. But if she posts a lot of hot stuff, I would rather you not see your female friend's naked body.
Let's say, for example, she's in the fitness industry.
Right.
Well respected in the fitness industry.
Yeah.
We go to work out together.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
In that scenario, if it feels like, and she's hot.
Really hot.
Yeah, no,
great
you're
body.
Not doing that. You just change
the body's unbelievable.
Yeah, no. Why are you adding insult to injury? No, you're definitely not allowed. No, it's just not appropriate.
Okay.
There's boundaries.
So I can't have any hot friends.
There's boundaries to friendships. There's boundaries to everything in a friendship.
We're just working out.
But there's boundaries to that, because I know when you're working out, and I've had male and female personal trainers working out with them is not a good look. Because working out it's not the right boundaries. It's not the right. Friendships comes with boundaries, and the reason why I would allow my partner to have female friends is if he understood the boundaries without me saying them. Whereas if there's female or male friends where you have to teach them the boundaries, then it's a problem. But it's harder in your industry. It's really hard in your industry.
Yeah, because. I mean, even it's the collaboration. So I don't want to just only collaborate with men.
Yeah.
It's good for business and adds more. Particularly, the majority of my viewers are men anyway.
Right.
So if there's a female involved, like they get all excited about it. They want to see the interaction. They want to just maybe have something to look at as well.
Yeah, of course.
So I want to continue doing that. And there's always been problems.
Would you ever be with someone who's in the industry, like a fitness model, and make it easier for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good look.
But I've noticed female fitness models who have a big following, they're pretty crazy.
Why?
Well, it depends. It depends. There's some who are like really sort of like well respected.
Yeah.
And they don't show much.
Would you mind
they have this. They can still be sexy, but they don't show too much. But the majority of these female fitness influencers, their ass is everywhere.
Yeah. And would you mind if your girlfriend had an OnlyFans?
Oh yeah.
Why would you mind?
Because everybody would be able to see the private parts.
Okay. And
I wouldn't necessarily. I wouldn't respect her values. I think it's very important. If I'm going to be in a relationship with someone or we're going to get married, we have to have the same values.
Yeah.
And it's something which I disagree on.
Right.
I think that woman has taken the easy route.
Right.
You know, even with myself, I have done it the hard way to get to where I am today. I have had many offers. I could have done some pretty degrading things. I could have got OnlyFans myself and made $100,000 a month.
Yeah, you could easily done that, yeah.
But I was like, nah, because it goes against what I stand for. I have too much pride.
Okay.
So I would much rather do it the harder way, the slower way.
Yeah.
And then even when you get to that point, it's way more satisfying.
Yeah,
and you can talk about how you got there. But if I'm doing this podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, staying in this apartment because I do OnlyFans. People will be like,
yeah.
okay, well, good one. And then it tarnishes your reputation.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, it does do that.
So I could be friends with a woman like that. I could maybe have a short fling with a woman like that, but I couldn't. And I would respect her. Like, say, for example, the girl I met in Bali, she's, got a family out of poverty. So I respect that and I understand that. But
starting a relationship is a different kind of level of respect.
I would not do that.
Fair enough. To each their own.
So respect everybody who's doing that, but it's just not my thing.
Own. Yeah, to each their own. We're not here to judge anyway, but to each their own.
Here's another good question. We're in a relationship. Would you let me go on a lad's holiday?
No.
No.
I'm very strict. I'm very strict. It's like I'm very strict, but it would depend on the age and stage and all these things. But this is what I tend to do. I tend to be with people who are just not that way inclined too much anyway. So if it's a case of you're going and it's like all the time and it's all this, that, and the other, I don't really like that. But if it's occasionally here and there, I still don't like it, but I might be less difficult.
But what if you wanted to go on a girls' trip somewhere?
I don't do that. I don't do that. Yeah, I don't do that. I'm not a girls' trips kind of woman.
See what I do is I'm flexible. And if it's something which they want to do, I don't say don't do it.
Yeah.
I just give them the option.
Yeah. Do you mind if it goes on girls' trips?
So if they want to do it, they can do it.
Yeah.
But how they react to that will determine whether or not I continue with that relationship.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, I say, maybe she's talking about it or her friends have mentioned it. I say, yeah, she'll go.
Yeah.
But if she goes, then I'm like, okay, you would much rather be with your friends partying in Mykonos than to be with me. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go to Ibiza or I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then it just gets
But here's my thing with holidays and stuff like that. When you say, I trust my partner, you can trust your partner, but there's environmental factors in our behavior. And I would prefer a partner who doesn't put themselves in that environment, just like I don't put myself in that environment because I respect the boundaries of the relationship. Doesn't mean you're caged, but there is boundaries towards everything. And there could be a holidays here, there, and somewhere. No, and it's not the end of the world, but it's somebody who's got that craving all the time is not somebody who's ready to settle down. That's what I was saying.
I'm in relationships, I barely go out and party.
Yeah, especially when you live in Dubai. Like, you don't need to go on as many holidays. You live in a holiday. Yeah, so you don't need it so much. But you wouldn't mind too much if she goes...
It depends where she's going and who she's going with.
Okay.
Because I still want her to be free and to live her life. Like, she doesn't always have to be with me. If anything, it's quite nice to have a bit of time apart every now and then.
Yeah. I just think watch people do what they truly want in life and then pick your poison. Who would actually not require you to be controlling? Who would naturally be in line with your values, and that's the person you select, rather than choosing someone that's got completely different morals and like holding them by the throat to be like the way you want them to be. Just pick correctly.
But I think as well, if you've been told you can't do this, it makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, I suppose.
But if you've been given the option you can do it if you want to, then you're like, oh, okay. And then you probably just don't end up doing it anyway.
Yeah, I think especially with men, if you let them think they've got the option, they'll do what's usually the right thing. But when you try and control them, they kind of rebel as much as possible. So yeah, you got to just let them be.
But I will always have this issue, particularly at this point in time, because of what I do, the nature of what I do. I do need to travel to network, collaborate, I can't always just do these podcasts in Dubai. At some point, I'm going to need to do a bit of a road trip.
Yeah.
So it would be a business trip. But there could be a little bit of party.
I can imagine.
But it's not. I'm kind of past that point now.
But would you pick a partner who's quite chill rather than somebody who would be difficult?
Yeah, but not like a complete walkover though.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you need. She would need to stand up for herself and be like, do you know what? I'm not happy with this.
Okay.
If she just sits there in silence, is like, okay, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think I would just lose respect for her a little bit.
Okay. So you just want her to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way.
What are your thoughts on open relationships?
It's definitely not something I encourage, even though I can understand why people do it, but it's not something I encourage because essentially, I always look at relationships through the lens of a child. And when you have children and both parents are in open relationships, what happens is they start to learn to put their desires before the needs of each other and the needs of the relationship. And it's just not good for creating a unit. It's not good for part of being in a healthy relationship is sacrificing what you truly want for the sake of the commitment to this marriage. But when you are in an open relationship, you're not asking them to sacrifice anymore. And then they don't get in the habit of putting somebody else's feelings first. And it's just pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. It's just not a good way to live your life. It's not healthy for you. It's just not healthy, but I can understand
I think there's always going to be one person who will get hurt.
Yeah, because there's always one winner. There's always somebody who's actually upgraded.
The person who cares less is going to win.
Always the person who cares less is always going to be a one step ahead, and then it becomes a battle, and then it becomes a problem, and then what happens is you're trying to beat each other, and you start to be on opposite teams. Like if you went out that night, I'm going to go out this night. If you met somebody hot, I'm going to meet someone hot. It's always a negative thing. I don't know if it's very good for short term, but terrible for long term. In my experience of watching couples that do it.
Can you or should anyone ever forgive a partner who has cheated?
I think when you have children, yes. When you have children, you can do it. The reason being is children benefit from seeing mum and dad go through troubles, going through it, staying together. But forgiveness and staying are not the same thing. Staying with your partner and then punishing them and being horrible to them and controlling them and being abusive is not forgiving. Forgiving is we're going to start fresh. What made you want to cheat? Let's try and fix that. But what I notice, especially when men forgive women, it's not always good. Because they start to lose respect for themselves. They start to think, I'm such a fucking idiot. How can I forgive her? And they get angry at themselves. And
do they end up wanting revenge?
They want revenge and they get abusive, either physically or mentally. Where are you going? What time are you going? This, that, and the other, calling her names, calling her this, that, and the other. Women do it too when they've been cheated on, but women tend to just withdraw their love. They no longer love you. They no longer want to sleep with you. Whereas for men, when they forgive you, they hate themselves for not being strong enough to leave you. So they end up being verbally and physically abusive because they're a less happy person. So I say if there's no kids, don't do it.
Yeah, I generally would probably not forgive.
Have you ever forgiven by it? Like, have you ever been softer and thought, let me try and forgive?
No, I mean, fortunately, I think I've been, I don't know for sure, but I feel like I've been in a position where I haven't really been cheated on.
Yeah.
But in my earlier days, in my early 20s, I think for sure it happened. Now that I look back at everything.
Yeah.
And I think
you've never been in a situation where it's been outright, someone's cheated?
No, but the other person had started speaking to someone.
Okay.
So in a way, I just thought, well, it's over.
Right.
And I think if someone has cheated, it's never going to be the same again.
Yeah,
it really isn't. Like, even though you try to tell yourself as much as possible, oh yeah, we can make it work again. You're always going to think about it, and the trust is gone. And what I've noticed in a relationship, when the trust is gone, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you start to be mad at yourself for not being strong enough to leave them. And when you're mad at yourself, you're a difficult partner. You're angry, you're aggressive, you're hostile. You don't want to reward them. You're like, oh, why should I cook for them? Why should I give her why should I give her a birthday present? You start to withhold the good things, but really unleash all the bad things. So I think it's always a bad thing. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out well.
What advice would you give to somebody who's in a relationship or dating someone who has experienced severe emotional trauma, usually maybe in their childhood?
Oh, okay.
So how do you deal with that?
The thing is, when you've been traumatized in your childhood, you can't help but look for trauma in adulthood. So you'll look for somebody who will reincarnate that trauma. Somebody, say, for example, parent is abusive, you look for an abusive partner. Parent is absent, you look for an absent partner. You owe yourself the right to feel loved in the correct way. So select wisely. Selection is everything. Try not to, because what happens is when you've been traumatized, somebody who feels familiar, even though it's chaotic and horrible, you'll be drawn to them because it feels familiar. And you label that as chemistry. And somebody who's nice, consistent, and caring, you see as boring. And you're like, oh, I don't want that. You owe yourself to look for peace, not pleasure. Because in the long run, that peace will give you that comfort you always craved as a child. But that chaos will rehash all the traumas and you are left feeling so low. So you owe yourself that experience of love if you didn't get it as a child. Try and think about it like that. That child that in you that's been hurt and traumatized needs love. Go to somebody who gives it, not somebody who reminds that child that they're unworthy. Because that's what the people tend to do. They reincarnate all the horrible things.
I wouldn't say I've had experience of that specifically, but I have been seeing, or I've been in a relationship with someone who had a very narcissistic mother. And that...
It's traumatizing, right?
Would you class that as being...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What happens in that narcissistic child there is either that they become a bit narcissistic or they accept narcissism towards them. So they accept somebody who doesn't value them, makes them earn their love, really abusive, really negative, and they see that as normal. And if they get that narcissist to love them, it's almost like getting their mum to love them. So they're almost up for the challenge, but they're re-abusing themselves. So it doesn't work out, unfortunately.
Unless you're really narcissistic.
Unless you're really
then it's going to be
then
great.
It all works. Then it all works well, go perfectly. But it is unfortunate how you can't pick your childhood, but you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. It's unfortunate. Do you feel like you had it quite easy as a child, or like?
Well, I did up until the age of 11, and my mum died of breast cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was brought up in my teens, very confused, angry, pissed off with the world, and surrounded by a lot of, it was just masculine energy, because it was my brother, my dad, my grandparents were there, but I didn't have that mother figure.
Did your dad remarry?
He's not remarried, but he's with someone now, and she's like really nice.
Did you have a mother figure in that 11 onwards, or no? So did you become hyper independent or really clingy to people?
Hyper independent. I was. Yeah, I guess I liked being by myself.
Yeah. And so now do you find it like difficult when a woman wants all your time and energy?
Yes. But I don't know if it's specifically linked to that though. I think I'm just generally quite...
Usually is. What happens with people who have that trauma, they become hyper independent, and what happens is when somebody wants a lot of their time and energy, instead of seeing it as a form of love, they see it as a form of control. They always want space. So even if they're married, a part of them wants like a separate bedroom, or even if they...
Okay, that sounds like me.
I can almost tell you. I know what happens is when they start to get attached to somebody, as much as they want emotional intimacy, they want distance. So they get attached, spend some time together, and then be like, not ignore her text the next day. And she's like, we just had a great time. And you're like, I need space now. Like mentally you're thinking, I need distance. So what happens is they kind of intimacy, distance. And that person's like, what the hell is going on with this guy? And then they try and pull you more. And the more they try and pull you, you feel like they're strangling you.
I think definitely in my early 20s, there was the relationships that I was in. I don't think they'd come across someone like me before.
Yeah,
they found me very puzzling.
Yeah. And then sometimes you end up not cheating, but just opening doors to other women, not because you want to cheat, but you just want to create independence from your partner. You just want to create an emotional distance. So you end up just kind of talking to other women just to create that space, just so she doesn't think that she has total control over you, because you're just not used to it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And so other things that they'll do is they point out flaws in their partner, not because there are flaws, but they're trying to emotionally detach. So their partner will, after being with somebody who's hyper independent, their partner's like, does he even love me? I don't even know. And he's like, no, I love you lots, but I'm just guarded.
I think I found it very difficult to express emotions and communicate.
Do your partner sometimes not even know if you love them or not? They're not sure?
No, they know now.
They know
I think probably after the age of 25, I got much better at understanding women and just expressing myself. Yeah. But beforehand, I was like so cold.
Yeah, here's the tip. If you just soothe her when she's being annoying, she leaves you alone for a while. If you just reply quite quickly, she'll leave you alone for a couple of hours. But when you leave her on red and when you don't reply and you do that, that's when she starts talking to herself and going crazy. Quick tip is call her quickly, then you don't have to hear from her a couple of hours. It's just like, but men think you're trying to control me. It's not control. It's like giving a baby a dummy.
But speaking of that, why is it that when women are annoyed, you have to ask them 10 times what is wrong. Yeah. Until they finally say, okay, this is the problem. Because if something has annoyed me or my partner's done something, straight away I'll be like, look, that was annoying. Like, don't do that again. Yeah. But because I always know if I've done something wrong, straight away I can tell because the behavior changes. Yeah. So instead of just prolonging this really awkward, annoying energy that is going on, I say, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. I say, what's wrong? And they said, oh, no, nothing. And I'm like, I know something's wrong.
Do you know what it is? With women, they tend to be really emotionally intelligent. So if we know that what might upset you, so we kind of know, okay, this might upset you. So we assume if you cared about us, you'd know. And so because we think emotional intelligence is natural, we forget that men don't have that. They don't always think from somebody else's perspective all day, every day. They're not mind readers. So we think that if you loved me, you would know. In our minds. So if we have to tell you, you must not love me, but that's the wrong attitude, women. You shouldn't think like that. Effectively communicate what you need to be said, because otherwise you create distance and you create frustration in your partner. But we as women think if you loved me, you'd know. And when we have to tell you, we feel like we're weakening the connection, but really you're strengthening it. And so, yeah, it's a stupid technique.
But yeah, men and women are very different. Yeah. And like what we think is not going to upset them, it may potentially upset them.
Massively.
I mean, sometimes it's obvious you've done something wrong.
But it's like when liking pictures, men have no idea how much that stresses a woman out.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. But yeah, there's so many times where I've been scratching my head and I mean, like, I have been so distracted throughout the day. I have so many things to do, but I cannot stop thinking about what it is that I could have possibly done to annoy it.
And so what is it usually? What kind of stuff is it usually?
Maybe just something I've said, or just not like meant to. Just like in my opinion, it's usually the stupidest things. Okay. Because if it had been like something which I've done something wrong. Yeah. I know what I've done. Yeah. But a lot of time it's just like little things that I'm like, you really? Okay, that was.
She loves you though. One thing I would say to men is when a woman's fighting with you, she's actually fighting for you. You should be worried when she stops caring. When she's actually annoyed at the little things, men tend to be like, oh, she's disrespectful, she's rude, she's so annoying. But it's actually because she cares too much. And so stupidly, we fight when we care too much. Annoyingly, yeah.
What have you found in your profession are sort of the common issues and patterns that couples are having? Yeah. In their relationship?
You know, people think it's cheating or it's something big, but the real thing is, people are thinking it's like cheating or doing something major, but it's actually not. The real thing that predicts divorce, they find all studies that found that 90% of divorces can be predicted by this. It's when your partner is trying to connect and you reject them. What I mean by this is, say for example, your partner comes home from work and is like, oh, I'm so tired. And you turn around and say, why are you tired? What have you done all day? That creates distance. Or if they say, I want to watch this, and your partner's like, you watch shit shows, instead of saying, all right, cool, we'll watch it. It's little things like when they're trying to connect with you, do you respond and be like, all right, cool, I'll watch it with you? Or do you say, your programs are shit, and you create that non-responding to their emotional connections? It doesn't mean men and women, it's anybody. So if you see your partner's sad and you don't even look at them, whereas a partner that says, hey, what's wrong with you? And responds to it immediately, responding to each other's bids for connection is what leads to a happy relationship. And people who don't, it's disconnect. And there's a slow divorce. Then it leads to cheating. Then it leads to looking somewhere else because you're feeling like my partner doesn't see me.
Do you think more couples should go to counselling?
Every single one should do it, especially before they have children. You owe your children a stable home. And before you go down that route, make sure you two can at very least co-parent if worse comes to worse. And I think if you want to ever start a family, you owe your children two dedicated parents to make sure that child receives the best care in the world. Whereas when you don't do this, children are born and they're traumatized by two parents who can't love the child enough to just put their differences aside. So I definitely think I think it should be free. I think everybody should just go to counselling. It should be part of healthcare.
I think there's some negative stigma attached with it.
Why
that
is
if you're, well, I don't know why, but it's just,
I don't know.
If you say that, it's like we've gone to counselling. People would assume that there's problems.
Yeah, but there's problems in every relationship.
Especially the longer that they go on. Usually within the first 6 months. Yeah. You don't, like, everything's sweet. You don't really need to work hard. No. After that 6 months, after 1 year, then you, both of you have to make a bit of an effort.
And especially when kids come along, you have to work on it. So I just think that you would do your children a huge favor if you invest a little bit into therapy before you go into becoming parents.
So this is something I wanted to talk about because the majority of my arguments in my past relationships have been down to social media related activities.
Here we go. What have you done?
So, I mean, I'm at a point now where I've made my mistakes and I've learned from them.
What would be the biggest mistake? Or
I think I look back at it now, it's fairly obvious. If you're in a relationship and you're liking other girls' photos, even though in your head you're like, it's nothing, I think I underestimated how
really
much
damage
that would be for her. Because obviously, if she's scrolling social media and she sees that I've liked a photo of a girl who's, you know, maybe she's like half naked or whatever, like, of course she's not going to like that. And then I'm kind of thinking, oh, it's not that bad. But then if she does the same thing and likes a picture of a topless guy, I'm like, I'll flip out. I'll go crazy. So it's very important to put myself in their shoes. And I've understood that if you are in a relationship in real life, you have to be in a relationship on social media as well.
Absolutely. And it would cost you nothing to not tap and save your relationship a lot. It would cost you nothing. It's not a big ask. But men don't like to feel like they're being controlled. They're like, oh, you're just being controlling. You're being insecure. You're being this. You're being that. But I always say women who post provocative pictures and men who like provocative pictures, are you being insecure? Or are you recognizing that it is a invitation for something that you don't want to invite into your relationship? And it would cost you nothing to just not tap. So that's why I recommend just avoiding it.
But what about following people of the opposite sex?
If they're your friends, there's no problem. But if
you
it's
said
random,
you said I can't be friends with women.
Yeah, okay. If they're random, there's no need. Why?
Yeah.
Especially if it's a profile like yours.
If we're in a relationship and then I follow somebody who is maybe in your industry, like a female role model who you respect.
Yeah. Then I think women don't mind so much when they see who you're following is kind of similar to them. They don't mind as much. But when it's the exact opposite, I know girls who've actually gone out and got surgery because their man was following a bunch of girls that had a particular surgical procedure. So you have no idea the damage it causes women. I know so many women who've gone out and got lip filler because their partner was following girls and that's just nothing. Imagine the surgeries, the amount of surgeries women have got because their partner kept following girls that look a certain way, tattoos and this. They've done so much damage. So what you think is small is actually having a huge impact. So why not just avoid it? If it's so small, just stop it. Yeah, that's what I always say.
Yeah, I think, I guess if you're young, you end up making these mistakes and hopefully you learn from them. Hopefully if you're watching this, you don't make the same mistakes, which I do. Yeah, there's been some unfortunate circumstances where I literally just cannot believe the timing sometimes. Yeah. So I will be, I'm with my partner scrolling through social media and then a message pops up from a girl saying, "You have a girlfriend? Question mark."
And did you know this girl or no?
Literally, I think I'd messaged her like 6 months ago, like barely, like no conversation. But because it popped up
wrong timing.
Instantly, they're like, "Who's that? Why is she asking that?" Like all these questions. And there's been so many scenarios where there is genuinely nothing going on. But because they see it, they just can't forget about it and they will assume the worst. Yeah, it's so crazy. You know, sometimes I'm almost afraid to get my Instagram out in front of my partner when I'm with them, because there might be a girl who I was seeing a year ago. Yeah, who might be like, you know, because this happens sometimes, if I post a picture and like I'm looking good in that picture on my story, people are going to reply to it and I can't control those messages popping up, particularly if I've already had some sort of a conversation with them in the past. Right. So I feel like that's kind of out of my control. I don't recommend ever like being secretive or like, I also don't think that you should go through each other's phone or not. But usually women feel more insecure, and men, when they don't feel as loved. When you take effort to make quality time, give them attention, they can see stuff like that and feel okay. But when they felt like they haven't heard from you the whole day, you haven't had one-to-one time in a while, you've been on your phone the whole day, that message can ignite something. So I always think the cure to insecurity is connection. Spend quality time, no phones, just me and you. She'll be calm. They're like babies. Just give them a bit of attention and love. This is something as well which has definitely been a bit of an issue because of my job and what I do. I need to be messaging my team, or I need to be on. I mean, I would admit the majority of the time on social media, I don't need to be on social media, but I do need to go there and post. And then if people asking questions, I need to reply. So I think definitely I need to make more of an effort when I'm with my partner to undivided attention, put the phone away. And because the thing is, even if you're at dinner, if you get your phone out and you start going on it, then it automatically gives the impression that you're boring.
Yeah.
This is more interesting.
And the thing is, if you just give undivided attention in the first 25 minutes, you can do what you want for the next hour. You just got to see it as an investment. It will pay off. You just give her undivided attention and then you can relax. But when she hasn't got it, she becomes difficult. She becomes itching, pulling for your attention, and then you withdraw, and it's just a cycle. So just give it to her.
So I've got some questions for you now.
Yeah.
So what does your ideal man look like?
What would my ideal man look like? That's an interesting question.
Not necessarily physically,
Not
but
physically.
just
discipline. I really, really, really admire a disciplined man. And even with me, even with my behavior, discipline. So he's got a set of principles and boundaries when it comes to his mind, body and soul, what he wants to do in terms of work, what he wants to do in terms of a gym, what he wants to do in terms of the relationship. Now, he doesn't bend those rules regardless of who I am and what I like. Not that, like, if you are acting crazy, if you're going to be silly, that's not going to work here. But when you bend and do that, I actually lose respect in that process. Stick to your guns, stick to your morals, stick to your work hard, be inspiring. I'm inspired by that. I'm inspired by a man that says, we're going this, we're doing that. And I do like a man who naturally, instinctively likes to look after his woman, not necessarily financially, emotionally as well, enjoys looking after and being with a woman. I don't enjoy that man that is accessible and available to everybody and anybody. He's here, there, and everybody. Every girl wants to be with him, and every girl has been with him. It loses his allure. I like a kind of a guy who's selective with his time, money, and energy. And I do think that's one of the traits I do look for in a man.
Are you currently in a relationship?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
yeah, and I'm in a relationship at the moment. But like I said, I'm crazy.
You're crazy. What are some attributes which you have that you wish you didn't have?
Jealousy.
Very jealous.
Very. I hate it. I hate it. And not just jealous like with women. I'm jealous of time. Where are you going? What are you doing? What time? Honestly, it's so draining. It's like I'm jealous with time. Why are you happy? Like, what have you been doing today? What are you smiling about?
Really?
Like, yes. I'm like, I didn't cause that smile. Where did it come from, you little shit? And I'm like, literally, it's that jealousy.
And how does he deal with that?
It takes a lot of patience. But there's zero tolerance. I know I won't get what I want by being jealous. I won't get anything out of him. I actually get more out of him if I'm just calm and nice and stuff. So I try and be more calm and nice in the end. But yeah, it's not easy. It's not an easy trait. And random insecurities. My problem is I know men too well. In my head, I think I know men too well. So what could be something quite innocent, my brain will say, no, that means da, da, da. And I connect the dots when they don't need to be connected. It's very difficult. I guess
that's an issue with your profession.
Yeah, you see the worst.
Have you been wrong about quite a lot of things?
Every time. Every single time. I'm always wrong. Because my brain will be like, okay, it's been 90 minutes. I haven't heard from you. What the fuck have you been doing? And then I realize it's football matches on. I'm like, oh shit, sorry.
He sounds like he's a very patient man.
Oh God, he deserves a medal. I'll have to say he deserves a medal.
Where did you meet? In Dubai?
In Dubai. In Dubai, yeah.
Not a club, I assume.
No, not a club. Through work, through business, investments into something. And then that was the method.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It's not a bad way to meet, I think.
A lot of your friendship groups or the women that you're friends with, are they also in relationships?
Yeah, they are in relationships, but Dubai is a mixed bag because in England, all of my friends are married, kids, everything. In Dubai, it's they could be married, but they act very single. Yeah, so it's a different kind of vibe.
What advice would you give to men in their 20s?
Do not use your 20s as an extended adolescence. Do not use your 20s to just prolong being 19. Don't be all the day, every day in the clubs. Don't be every day holidays. Don't be every day spending money you don't have. Don't be every day chasing women you don't need. Use that as training ground for 30. What I find is that you'll meet men who get to 28 and have no savings, have no no idea where they're going with their career, have just spent their 20s partying because they're like, I'm young. But the reality is it's training grounds. And if you get to 28 and you're just an old teenager, it's not attractive and you won't feel good. So fulfill your potential in your 20s while you've got the energy. You've got so much energy to work so many hours or work hard in the gym, and your energy goes down as you get older. So use it to fulfill your potential. If you get to 30 and you haven't fulfilled your potential, you will start to disrespect yourself and you'll start that depression cycle. Whereas when you fulfill your potential, by the time you get to 30, you are ahead, your mental health is going to be in a good place.
So you would argue it would make sense, and which I believe in as well, you should be spending that time trying to become the man that women want to be with, to get yourself to that top 10.
Try and be that man that women is secondary. I don't even recommend being in a relationship in your 20s, because what it does when men are in a relationship in their 20s, it kind of ticks that box off, and then less like, oh, I've got to go to the club every weekend to meet a girl, got to sleep with girls, got to go on holidays. They kind of tick that box off and focus on a bigger issue. But I always just think, fulfill your potential, whether that's your body, whether that's your work, whether that's with women. Fulfill your potential, don't settle, and then you'll be proud of yourself by the time you get to 30.
Don't be in a relationship.
Or do be in a relationship.
Yeah,
I recommend it. Were you in a relationship in your 20s?
Yeah, I had, there was one for 2 years when I was 21, 22. Then I was kind of single for a bit. Then I was in a long-term relationship, 26 to 27. That was the first time I fell in love.
Oh, how'd that go?
Well, great at the time, but then it was like absolutely heartbreaking when
it's horrible, isn't it?
break up. But I think I'm happy to have had the opportunity to experience it, because I imagine quite a lot of people go through life not knowing what love is or what it feels like.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to have experienced it, because it feels like you're on some kind of a drug.
Yeah.
It's really overpowering.
It's really euphoric.
But
it's also very distracting.
Yeah. I
was it toxic or was it healthy?
I wouldn't say it was toxic. It was long. It was a long distance relationship. So I think if anything, that kind of prolonged it, because we had that distance. We were just like so eager to see each other again, which probably made that feeling last longer.
Ah, okay. So
but it was
that novelty.
Yeah, but I would say it was so distracting, because when I was with her, when I was experiencing it, I did not care about anything else.
Aww.
Didn't care about work. Didn't care about I applied off all of my friends.
Yeah.
Didn't care about like making money. All I wanted to do was just spend all of my time with that person.
And then, but did you manage to still, by the time you got to 30, were you proud of the person you were in your 20s?
I would say so, yeah. But I mean,
a lot, right?
I think the problem, when I was in my 20s, I didn't have all these people to look up to and listen to. Like, we're at a point in time now where there's so many people doing podcasts. There's so much amazing information being put out there by very experienced guys and girls that you, if you just put the time and effort just to listen to them, you're already in a position where
mentors,
you just don't have to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
I feel like, when I was in my 20s, we're talking like 10 years ago or more, there was very few people offering that advice. So I had to kind of figure a lot out by myself.
And were you already on 1 million followers when you turned 30? Were you already like quite a subscriber?
No, I think it happened when I turned 30, when I was 29.
29, okay. Okay, amazing. Are you proud of that?
Yeah, but then you can't get too overly obsessed with the followers and numbers.
Well, it translates into connections and brands and all that stuff. So it's not the number that's impressive, it's what comes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were happy with that?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I think what made me the most happy was getting to a point where I was earning a certain amount of money per month. And then you're just like, whoa, like, okay, this is cool.
Feels good, right?
Yeah.
Is it fun being rich?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely prefer it to being poor.
It must be fun,
But what is interesting is once you reach a certain threshold of income, anything above that, it's not going to provide you with that much more happiness.
Yeah, you're not going to do anything more.
Like you end up doing is what you want to get a fancier car, you want to get a fancier apartment, you want to just buy pointless things.
But if you're a bad decision maker, all you do with more money is make more bad decisions. But if you're a good one, it just it doesn't really do anything after a certain amount. What you can do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think when I did go through a phase where I put in the effort and the hard work, and my life wasn't really that exciting. Didn't do that much. Then when I turned 28, 29, I started to really enjoy it.
Okay.
So I kind of took my foot off the pedal, enjoyed life for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And that ticked off boxes. I did things which I wanted to do. A lot of things which I thought were going to be amazing, they were amazing for a very small period of time. Then they got boring and I didn't want to do it anymore.
Okay.
So then I just came back to almost that same person who I was when I was grinding in the beginning.
You pretty much experienced a lot of life in your 20s.
Yeah.
And so what's the next step? What would you like to do next?
I think at this point, next few years, I want to just fulfill my potential in terms of what I can do with growing businesses, making money, social media, providing value.
Yeah.
And then obviously, eventually, I would like to start a family.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But, what am I, 32 now?
Yeah.
Is there a right age to start?
Any age is a good age. Any age is a good age. Every age is a good age for children. The thing is, as long as you give them the love they need.
But I know my life will change quite drastically.
No, it's not as much as it is, but yeah.
I'm enjoying being extremely selfish and enjoying my freedom right now.
You know what it is? Every man I know that has kids, they obviously enjoy being selfish and having their freedom, but they feel like the life before kids was nothing in comparison.
Really?
Yeah, they just say like, oh, it's a different level of joy. I know footballers who've scored in the World Cup, and they'll say to you, yeah, but you know when you have a baby, and or when you walk in and the baby runs to you, they're like, that's a different feeling. And I'm like, but you've scored in the World Cup, and they're like, I know, but it's a different feeling. So it is, it's something you would love.
It's a huge life experience, which I don't want to miss out on, for sure. But I think it's important to get yourself into a position where you can provide for them and also be there for them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would say I'm probably at that point now.
Sure.
But I just need to make sure that, one of the biggest decisions you make in your 30s or later life is who you're going to have kids with. That is such a huge...
Especially for a man. For women, we can almost hide behind the fact that we know we'll have the baby. If worse comes to worse, the laws favor us. But for a man, it's soul destroying. I've seen people who've gone straight into depression because they can't access their own child. But a stepdad who's probably who might be anything, can sleep in the same bed as their child, and it's just soul destroying. So the choice you make with who you lie down with is incredibly important.
And I feel like it's probably going to be more difficult for me because I have more choice.
Yeah.
So even I might be with someone who I think maybe this is the right person, but then I might think, well, maybe there's someone better.
And like you were saying, the girls that are the ones that you like might be a bit intimidated by your status online. So it is a little bit harder, but you'll definitely find it. Easy.
You got kids?
No, I wish. I'm praying. I'm praying.
One day.
Yeah, one day, inshallah. That's the goal. That's the goal. when I'm less crazy, that's the goal. That's the dream. Yeah.
What's next for you?
Kids. I think kids are the next thing. Work-wise, I do love it. But
we were speaking about maybe the lack of female role models.
Yeah.
You are the female role model that
do you think
women need.
Do you think so? Why'd you say that?
Because you switched on and you have a lot of value to offer. And I think there's not many, particularly on YouTube, you just don't see many women like you. So I would 100% recommend starting your own channel.
You think so?
Yeah, just doing what you're doing on Instagram, but just extending clips,
versions of
maybe even conversations like these.
Yeah, because the thing is, I've always my whole life just wanted to be a mum, but as I've gotten older, I'm trying to think that maybe my purpose is a little bit to spread this message a bit, give a voice to that kind of unheard voice, and then start a family, because maybe on a global scale people need to hear something slightly different, because the voice is very divisive. It's either feminist or you've got the red pill. There is no how do we create a home in between? And that's why I really want to debunk both sides of that, because it's not healthy for children, and children don't have a voice. And so we as adults have to teach adults how to be good parents, and we can't do that if we're saying, oh, she's a hoe and he's this and men are trash and women. It doesn't lead to healthy homes. So.
And there's a lot of red pill stuff out there, and even I was getting worried. I was like, I don't want this podcast to start going down that route. What were
some of the most scandalous things that I can try and debunk?
You have to read his book.
Absolutely not.
You have to read the book.
I would rather eat carpet. I'm not going to read his book. That would be an insult to my brain cells.
I think it was just the way he was going on about how women are technically adding less value in society, so they deserve less out of it. That's very generalized.
How they define value is we build the infrastructure, we build the roads, we build this and that and the other. And it's just But that's not society. Society is also who teaches children how to eat, who teaches children what time to go to bed, who teaches children what, like, they don't look at life through the lens of a child. And that's not the person who you should listen to advice from. Listen to the person who understands what children need from a mother and what children need from a father. I've heard some red pill talk say, children don't need a father to be present. They just need a father to come once in a while, give them an inspiration and then go. But that's not true. Women don't need, especially girls, they need a consistent father figure. They need a father that they can call when their car tire is flat. They don't want a dad that just comes every once a month just to inspire them. They need someone that makes them feel safe and nurtured. Otherwise, she will find a man that does it. She will find a man that does it, and it leads to promiscuous women. So don't teach men to be emotionally distant. Teach them to love women, not to just give them less. That doesn't create healthy daughters.
Well, that's your first YouTube video idea. Reviewing that book.
Absolutely not. Because what if somebody reads it?
No, but like that would be a great video. Because
I need to do a conversation with Myron at some point. Myron and Impression Fit.
You need an opposing point of view. You need to be that person who debunks the
was there anything else that I should debunk on that?
Yeah, there was a lot. That's why you need to read it and review it.
I can't read that book.
You can.
My brain, I can't dishonor my brain by reading that book. But I'll try and listen to bits and bobs of it. I will try and listen to bits and bobs. But what I would say is when you're consuming content as a man, if you leave the content feeling more angry and negative about relationships rather than inspired on how to make it better, stop watching it. Stop watching it. Just stop. Men and women. If you are a woman watching a podcast and you're thinking men are trash at the end of listening to it, stop listening to it. Listen to something that is thinking, this is how I'm going to build a home. This is the type of mother I want to be. Children are really inspiring. I know they're tiring and horrible and annoying, but I really do want to add that value to them.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the time when there has been podcasts and female guests on podcasts, they are literally the worst representative of the female population.
Absolutely.
I'm like, really, like these are the women that are going to be the voice.
Yeah. Does it scare you about the next generation of children?
Oh, yeah. I think well, first of all, social media is going to turn their brain to mush. They have no attention span. But I don't like the idea of everyone being so soft. Particularly men just being really soft
and easily offended and so sexualized.
Yeah, because I grew up at school and we all used to make fun of each other so much, and I think that's what kept me grounded.
Yeah, I grew up in an environment when I used to teach in London and stuff. They would even make racist jokes, but they was coming from love. Like I could actually see that they're actually making fun of each other in a soft way. But now it's just everything is so hyper sensitive that your children are losing their ability to not take themselves seriously. You have to go through life not taking yourselves too seriously. That's how you build mental health. But if you take everything so seriously and become so personalized, it's a recipe for disaster for your mental health. So it is damaging, unfortunately, but there's no stopping it.
So where can everybody find you on social media?
At Sadia Psychology, both on Instagram and TikTok, and then you can find like lots of advice and podcasts and all that stuff there.
And if any of you guys are in a relationship and you need some assistance or you're having some issues,
anything, I am the person to ask. I am the person. So please, you can contact me for one-to-ones as well at any point. Yeah.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I feel very, very honored to be the first woman on this. So thank you so much.
You did a good job.
Thank you. We'll speak soon for sure. Hi, I'm Sadia Khan, and you might know me as a leading dating coach in modern relationships today. I work with men every single day to help give them the blueprint of understanding relationships, women, attraction, and self-esteem. So if you are feeling stuck in your relationships and you want to unlock your full potential, work with me today by clicking on the link, and I look forward to hearing from you.